Ladies and gentlemen, the concert of colors. If you were in your car right now, I would ask you to flash your lights. If you were at home right now, I would ask you to turn your porch light on. If you were in water right now, I would ask you to make some waves. If you were in bed right now, I would ask you to dance on your back. This concert of colors. It is a collection of hopes, dreams, musicians, and memories. It is alive, featuring some of the baddest musicians alive on the planet Earth. Are you ready for the concert of colors? Thank you very much. Are you ready?
The Concert of Colors, Detroit's Diversity Festival, is one of the most beloved events in the region and has been an important part of the city's landscape for nearly 3 decades.
Listen, we're going to throw us right to the stage because Buffy St. is performing right now.
I'm in an ocean to ocean. I've rambled and roamed, and so now return to my piney wood home. Maybe someday I'll find someone who will love as I love my piney wood hill.
After the 1967 rebellion, Detroit, with its storied music history, became a powerful engine for cultural renewal in the fight for diversity and equality. Music was very much a part of all that.
When I grew up here in the 1950s and the 1960s, it was like a festival of colors every day, and you really got exposed to all kinds of music and all kinds of people, and everyone kind of merging together. It's amazing crossroads of a lot of different cultures.
Great crowded, great band. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Louie. Great solo. Thank you, everyone.
Jazz and gospel music in the 40s, the launch of Motown in the late 50s, the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festivals in the 60s and 70s, the Detroit International Jazz Festival had its beginnings in 1980. Rock Against Racism in the late 70s and early 80s, the Detroit Festival of the Arts, and the efforts of iconic musicians, including Aretha Franklin, James Cleveland, Marvin Gaye, Kenny Burrell, the MC5, John Sinclair, and the Techno 5. Promoters and community activists were all key to the city's cultural and physical renewal.
I think one of the problems with people not getting along is they don't understand each other. Education is the key. You know, it's just a kind of human thing. When people don't understand another person's culture or another person's background or things about them, they kind of shy away or have resentments and so forth.
The scene in Detroit in those days was thriving. Everything was possible. If you wanted to build something, you could build it in Detroit. And if you wanted to have a band and be an entertainer, you could do that in Detroit.
Detroit was the second city of bebop in the United States, of jazz. It was a huge. In the 50s, you couldn't go to New York and see one of the top groups in the country without having a Detroiter or more than one in each band.
All of this went far beyond the city, often serving as the soundscape for struggle and cultural renewal worldwide. At the same time, policies with a history rooted in racism, segregation, and disinvestment continue to pull us apart, city and suburb, black and white, and other peoples of color.
People think of us as basically a black and white city, But we've been an international town for a long, long time. A lot of that due to the automobile industry and the types of people who from all over the world would move here, live here, come to do work here. And yet we haven't always been open to each other. And we've operated with a lot of prejudgments that have fragmented the community in many ways.
What's going on? People dying in the streets, y'all. Bad politicians, a lot of non-talking and misunderstanding and backbiting and all that bull we don't like no more, y'all. Why can't we just get it together, y'all? If we just look in the mirror and start with ourselves, be the change we want to see. You know what I'm talking about, y'all. Oh, what's going on?
Detroit's prosperity in the success of the auto industry and the manufacturing industries weren't shared by people of color in Detroit. Black people were still first fired, last hired. They got the worst jobs on the shop floor. They did not participate in the success of the auto industry, either economically, socially, politically. They weren't part of the Detroit power structure. And there was a tension in the streets in those days. It was a tension we all lived with. And of course, all that exploded in 1967 in the Great Rebellion in Detroit.
By the mid-'80s, many in the cultural communities began to pull together to launch a set of events aimed at bringing the communities of color together to celebrate their cultures and forge the bonds of friendship necessary to stand up for each other.
Cultural Exchange Network was a committee of the New Detroit, the Urban Coalition, and it was really an opportunity for people from different segments of the Detroit community to come together and express ideas and thoughts coming from the different communities, within Detroit. Detroit's really a very multicultural, multi-ethnic community, and it was really a refreshing idea to have people come together and have a dialogue, discussion, and programming.
During this time, New Detroit Racial Justice Coalition asked Ismael Ahmed, at the time the director of Access, the Arab Community Center, and New Detroit staffers Sue Hamilton-Smith, Horacio Vargas, and Michelle Montgomery to convene a group of these community organizations to initiate this work. Key community leaders came forward almost immediately.
Hello, I'm Shirley Stancato. On behalf of New Detroit and Access, we'd like to welcome you to the Concert of Colors, the largest free world music festival in the country.
What we do is basically try to work with the diversity of this community, bring in multicultural individuals to work. There are 70 organizations from the nonprofit organizations representing the 5 communities that we work with: the Native American community, the Asian community, the Arab Chaldean, Latino, Hispanic, and the African American community. They all are part of what makes this concert successful.
New Detroit, which was an organization that was created to respond to the 1967 rebellion, it was a place where the very well-to-do could talk to the poor, and the poor could talk back, and hopefully make some kind of progress.
In the early days of the Concert of Colors, it was really formed to bring community together. And at that time, Ismael Ahmed was our vice chair at New Detroit, as well as a chair of our Racial Justice Task Force. And he was the person that actually was tapped to bring all of these communities together, as he did effortlessly. And there were over 70 organizations that became a part of New Detroit's Cultural Exchange Network.
Thurman Bear from the Native American community, Latino activist Osvaldo Rivera, Marissa Ming from the Chinese community, Mavis Spencer from the Caribbean community, East Indian businessman Bhagwan Desaria, and Charlie Gorowitz, a Jewish music activist, all answered the call, and they in turn brought others on board.
You know, Ish and them got a bunch of different community folks from different ethnic communities together, and the idea of celebrating our cultures, even though there is a diversity, there's a oneness that comes across. And so the combination of diversity yet the similarities of being human is very important to me, and that it was a very community-based, driven program.
It was really a learning and working experience being a member of the Cultural Exchange. Here I had the opportunity to work with representatives from the different communities. The goal was eventually to have this concert of colors. And at the concert of colors, one of the goals was to bring in performers from these various cultures to really bring them into metropolitan Detroit for residents here to experience the culture through music.
Within a few years, there were over 60 organizations at the table representing the Asian, African, and African American communities, the Latino, Native American, and the Arab and Chaldean communities, and many more. They initiated a set of highly successful events in churches and neighborhoods throughout the city.
We began doing concerts in neighborhoods. They were hugely successful. They were beyond capacity. And then Mary Young came to us and said, well, we'd like you to do this at Shane Park. And we agreed to call it the Concert of Colors.
I served on the Detroit City Council, and I was one of the people who approved the Concert of Colors. And knowing that how important it is for us to get together, it's a joy just to be a part of such a diverse collection of performers and musicians.
Just about ready for the main event of the evening, Maria.
Yes. Finally, war will be on.
I want you to put your hands together for legendary recording artists. Sold over 40 million records on Avenue Records. Let's hear it for war!
Here we go. I say, you say. I say, you say. I say, you say. I say, you say. Wait a minute. Bring it down south. Bring it down. Bring it down.
Detroit's such a great music city. And as a result, we have what the Concert of Colors looks like today. Multiple partners, people working, volunteers and agencies, and just everybody coming together to make this happen in Detroit.
The Concert of Colors is really a showplace for all the different types of world music that kind of reflects in the culture of the city of Detroit.
The mission that they stated when they founded it was the idea of bringing all of these different communities together in Southeast Michigan, all of these different ethnic communities, and having everybody come together through music and dance and a celebration of our differences.
Let's give him a warm round of applause. Poncho Sanchez.
They also began coming to each other's aid, as best exemplified by the joint support they generated for justice in the racist killing of Vincent Chin and their convening of the Fair Immigration Coalition to oppose a two-tiered citizenship proposal by Congress.
Vincent Chin was a 27-year-old Chinese American who was beaten to death, and we believe it was because he was Asian or Chinese American. And at the time when the Detroit auto industry was in the throes of a recession, Vincent Chin essentially was targeted.
And in what outraged the Asian community, both escaped a 15-year prison term. Instead, they were placed on 3 years probation and given a $3,000 fine.
And right there on the front page was coverage of that these two killers had received probation for killing a Chinese man. And I just felt all of the blood and feeling in my body leave me. I just couldn't believe that this had happened.
Out of this desperate situation emerged the Concert of Colors, which was incredibly creative way to glue the parts of Detroit back together, to bring this community that had been destroyed back together to celebrate our diversity.
It was at this point in 1985 that the Concert of Colors was born, when mayoral aide Ron Alpern approached Ismael and indicated that Mayor Coleman Young and the city of Detroit wanted to offer Shane Park to host a major diversity music festival and that it should be free to the public.
Concert of Colors remains from the ground up. It reflects the people, not only the people of Detroit, but the people of the world. So we bring in people from India and Africa and Latin America, as well as the cream of the crop from the city of Detroit.
New Detroit, and later Access, would provide the talent, marketing, volunteers, and any additional activity and staging. And so it began. The first few years of the Concert of Colors was fairly modest as compared to today.
They consisted of 1 day and 5 performances from a subset from each of the communities of color, and it was attended by approximately 5,000 people. But already, the Concert of Colors was quickly developing a reputation as a harmonious event that presented some of the finest artists on the planet.
Concert of Colors is a little melting pot musically that represents the cultural diversity and depth of the city of Detroit.
These artists that would never have ended up in Detroit, they would never have played for a Detroit audience, suddenly brought from remote parts of the world in many cases, and then plopped right down in our town and performing for Detroiters is joyful every single time. It's never lost on me.
In addition, the new Detroit Cultural Exchange Committee helped strengthen the educational aspect of the event and ensured the diversity and attendance of its audiences.
I was very much surprised when a mentor had come along and taught us how to interpret different types of music and to realize that there's music from all over the world that most of us have never heard before, and to set aside our differences and prejudices.
The Concert of Colors here in Detroit is so important. It gives everybody a chance to come and celebrate together, collectively, and with the finest musicians that Detroit has to offer, as well as any other that are brought into this Concert of Colors.
Concert of Colors is one of the greatest collaborative programs in the country today. It brings to the height the importance of music music, a universal language that brings all people together.
You know, there's a lot of comedy in what you're doing, but there's some serious stuff behind.
Lots of serious stuff.
You just did a song there on immigration and stuff like
Immigration, safe sex, Zapatistas in Chiapas, the revolution, all kinds of things. I use the music of Elvis to get points across of the Latino situation, the Chicano lifestyle, and things that are important to us, celebrations, problems, and, you know, past history. And I think people are more open when they're brought in a humorous way, taken by surprise by the music of Elvis now telling political situations or social commentary through an Elvis song. It's pretty good things. I think people enjoy it.
Viva la raza! Viva la raza! Viva, viva la raza! Thank you, good night. I am Ahmed. You are Detroit, Rock City. Thank you, good night.
Also during this time, the Cultural Exchange Committee began to launch free quarterly events such as Mama Africa that focused on the music of Africa and performances by groups like the Last Poets and Spider-Man writer Saladin Ahmed and other Detroit poets of color.
I was part of a really thrilling poetry concert with the Last Poets and the jazz group Straight Ahead and some other Detroit poetry legends. And it was very thrilling, but I was extraordinarily lucky in kind of coming up in a rich cultural environment with parents who cared about that rich cultural environment and showing it to people. And so, you know, the Concert of Colors for me kind of embodies it, and is something that I carried forward with me as I went to make a career in the arts.
In addition, the Detroit Caribbean community provided music, dance, and costumes from the Caribbean to convene a Caribbean Carnival night. Each event was attended by massively diverse audiences.
It's like the United Nations boiled down to Detroit, and it celebrates the best of everything that Detroit has clung to tenaciously in the Detroit way of fighting for the things that really matter.
Concert of Colors wants this area to be exposed to the world. So for the people that can't afford to leave and go around the world like us, we bring it to them.
Also during this time, New Detroit and Access began the Forum on Community Culture and Race, which consisted of all-day workshops with speakers like world-renowned artists Hugh Masekela and Buffy St. Marie. More importantly, these workshops brought together community activists and artists to talk about art as a community-building activity.
We're talking to various members of the council and Michigan foundations to try to continue this work to bridge the gap.
The Concert of Colors also began to enjoy major support by many of the city's key funders, thanks to Frank Fountain and Fred Hoffman at Daimler Chrysler, Miriam Nolan at the Southeast Michigan Community Foundation, Eugene Miller at Comerica Bank, and the Knight Foundation. The Concert of Colors continued to grow and thrive.
Well, I think the importance of the work that New Detroit, Access, and many other institutions do, it's very important that those institutions are supported in their activities. And the Concert of Colors, I thought, was one of the premier activities to be enjoyed by all of our citizens.
You're all right. Whenever I'm out, so makes my dreams real, I say that you do. Be honest. So be look at baby, what's here I come.
This was also true of the media led by Gerald Smith from Detroit Public Television and later Comcast along with WDET. They broadcast the Concert of Colors live to hundreds of thousands of their viewers and listeners, and the Detroit Free Press and Metro Times printed Concert of Colors guides. Fortunately, Detroit Public TV and WDET still continue their support to this
I
day.
just want to tell you folks, the people here are just absolutely outstanding. The cross-cultural communication I've seen happen has been unmatched anywhere in this area.
You know, looking back on all those years at Shane Park, that I had a real opportunity to serve as the host, whether it was with Detroit Public Television or Comcast. I've seen a real evolution on the part of people coming together. And then with the name change from Shane Park into the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater, just lays claim on not only the institution of Shane Park, but the realization that the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater will live on, and we're really proud about that.
Think about the importance of that concert to the communities of music, and to sometimes we call the tribe, the folks at the center, but also think about the opportunity to share that concert with the entire community. So what we find quite frequently, there's an important issue, and there's the folks, the insiders, the people that know, the people that love every single thing Ish ever did, everything the Concert Colors stands for, to turn to them and say, we're going to make it more available. Now, will you help share it with the entire community? Will you help share it globally? And so we're in this moment of how do you super serve the absolute Concert of Colors central group, and then how do you say to them, let's share this and let's tell this story and let's share this celebration of music that is the Concert of Colors.
Within 10 years of its founding, the Concert of Colors, Detroit's Diversity Festival, became one of the largest world music festivals in the country, with a yearly budget of over $1 million and attendance of over 100,000 people.
One of the challenges is to always push yourself, and the Concert of Colors can push you in the loveliest way into experiencing new music and to checking out things you would never even have stumbled upon them in many cases.
It's changing, you know. Where else could somebody see, you know, when Baby Cool Day, when he was there, that was totally new. No one had saw him. I mean, you know, he had been around and he was young, but I mean, it was important for people in Detroit to see, to actually have a chance to go see it for free.
Together now. Together now.
The coalition and performances expanded to include every ethnic group in the metro area. They added 5 additional stages to the grounds at Shane Park.
The sum of the experience for people is you feel happy, you feel good, you feel connected after you've participated in a Concert of Colors event. It's almost, you can almost see it. It brings people together.
That attitude of music is a universal language, which it is, because everybody's on the same playing field when it comes to listening to music. We're doing that together. Unlike being on the radio where people often listen alone, it's very solitary, it's very intimate. This is where we all listen together and we learn together.
People continue to come back and to feel that union that it gives them and the hope it gives them, and we see everybody becoming one in the audience, and that's a lovely thing to watch.
treasure the memories of children and older people and people of all mixed backgrounds coming together to dance to African music, Indian music, music from all over the world that they may not have thought they understood or responded to until they heard it, and then there was something in it that brought them all to the front of the stage.
To be surrounded by others who believe the same thing and to get the kind of responses we've had is validating. It gives us more strength to keep on doing and say, yes, this is the way to do it.
Performances regularly included artists like Ray Charles, Buffy St. Marie, Bo Diddley, War, Femi Kuti, Eddie Palmieri, Dr. John, Little Richard, and many other big names, as well as up-and-coming artists from all over the globe.
Wonder which way I gotta go to get on nowadays. I've been in the right place, been the wrong time, been in the right place, been the wrong line, on the right road, do the wrong move, did the right thing, did the wrong group.
We talk about language, and culture is infused in the language. So when people have different languages, there's an overarching universal language of music.
When you're going and listening to a music in a different language, music that has different rhythms to it, that practices in different keys and stuff that our ear isn't used to, it's very exciting to be in that space with other people while we're all sort of discovering things together.
Detroit artists such as The Temptations, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, the Marvelettes, Mitch Ryder, and lesser-known artists including the Dirt Bombs and Melvin Davis from the metro area began performing.
This is the way we do it. When I say ain't no city like you say Motor City. When I say it ain't no town like you say Motown. Let's try it. Now ain't no city like, ain't no town like, ain't no city like, ain't no town like.
Maybe just as important was the entrance of Uber producer and the head of Blue Note Records, Don Was. Don and the Detroit All-Star Review enabled the festival to pay tribute to the major contributions of some of music's finest artists, as well as up-and-coming Detroit area musicians.
When something is transcendent, it really overrules any of the superficial differences between us. In our hearts, we all want to have this state of oneness.
You bring all of these different flavors together and all of these different people together and celebrate the rhythms and celebrate the melodies and celebrate the smiles and the laughter and the dance. And this is what life should be about.
So it's really a way of calibrating unity at a higher level, and that's always going to be necessary in a place such as the United States of America.
All of this was taking place with the backdrop of continuing financial loss and disinvestment in the city, flight to the suburbs, and continued racial conflict.
It absolutely is not easy to fundraise for this festival, even though it's the biggest diversity event in the city. And it also focuses in on other questions too, the rights of people and the need for free speech and many other kinds of things. You would think that it would attract millions of dollars. We have a very small budget.
a lack of access to capital by African American businesses, killings and boycotts by party store customers and of its owners, as well as the decline of the arts in the Detroit public schools, exacerbated these material conditions.
The Detroit arts community, including the Concert of Colors, could not help but be affected. In this timeline, the Detroit Festival of Arts, the Children's Museum, Casa de Unidad, Detroit's only Latino museum, and the Science Center all closed, and many other important cultural institutions and festivals were shuttered or drastically impacted.
I have a saying. The saying is, when you don't have money, you have friends. And so we got all kinds of friends that do all kinds of things. The working group that does this is mostly unpaid. And those few people that are paid a little bit of money, it's a really little bit of money.
To make matters worse, there was a massive decline of corporate funding. The Concert of Colors had to function on less than 20% of its former income. More importantly, New Detroit and Chene Park could no longer house and staff the Concert of Colors. If the Concert of Colors was to survive and remain free, it would both have to find a new home, new facilities, and diversify its sources of income.
I adore Ismael and his whole crew, and what he's done is heroic. I mean, I've tried to produce shows, and it's no fun. It's hard work. And he's done this year in, year out, and every year is better than the year that just happened.
Ismael, and later Hassan Jaber, Access's director, agreed to house the program in the newly minted Arab American National Museum and provided staff, marketing, and fundraising support. Also at that time, Ann Parsons of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra offered their facilities for free. The DSO was joined by the University of Michigan Detroit, located right next door, which would provide an outdoor stage and talent.
Wow, you're talking about bringing in these people, and they're big groups. You know, they're big groups, and I know they cost a lot of money. How are they going to do this and have it free? You know, it was just a hard undertaking, but somehow he did it.
The ability to put together a festival with so many diverse musical acts and performers and artists and bring them to our city is just remarkable to me every time. I don't know how Ismael does it, quite honestly. He's a miracle worker of some sort.
Miriam Noland of the Southeast Michigan Community Foundation, the Ford Foundation, and the Knight Foundation also stepped in to help. And additional corporate support was provided by Myers, Comerica, and MGM, helping to ensure the Concert of Colors would remain free and open to the community.
We all work together, and it works. It works. I would like to be in a position to say our future is assured and this work is assured, but it's not. And we keep reinventing ourselves. Part of it's money, but part of it is other reasons too. We want to be more effective, communicate more what we believe and what we hope others believe or will come to believe as well.
In the idea that we're supposed to be in boxes, and the idea that we're different from each other, and we lose our humanity in that, right? And so what we like to do as Las Cafeteras is not only honor our roots, but also honor our present and understand that connecting, we can build a future that's really beautiful for our kids, but also that we're proud of, that we have a country that we're proud of, and that we're all integrated in.
Prepare 3 veces. Pelotero la bola.
Don was continued his steadfast commitment saying to the Metro Times, "I love Detroit and I will do the review in Ismael's living room if that's what it takes." Unlike many other events, the Concert of Colors would survive.
But when the Lord, Lord get ready, you gotta move. Oh yeah.
Been to Chicago, Atlanta, GA, Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, of course. No matter where I roam, Detroit is my home.
Detroit is the place in the heart of music. Concert of Colors is so important to me because of Don Was.
We have to have the money to bring in some of the talent, and sometimes people will come for very little money or none. Don Was is a case like this. He loves Detroit, he loves the Concert of Colors, comes into town all the time to do this, usually pays to play.
There was no real showcase for indigenous Detroit music. So when I became friends with Ismael Ahmed, we decided that we better do a show that reflects that. So we thought we'll have a review with just everyone does one song and everyone will be really different and it'll show the breadth of Detroit music.
Love was the first to tell me truth hurts, and back then love it not duetted with Rakim. Love of God to me is the most attractive, and his black skin's one of the things love's wrapped in.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven, till heaven rings.
Mercy shall follow me. Follow me. All of the days of my life. Each day I know I
won't stop for new slaves. Pretty brothers getting paid. Assembly line, the insane. I'm from Detroit, watching poetry go pop. Rapid gunshot, shotgun, flock back brothers with no mics to rock.
You can call me Lucifer if you think you're sure that I know I'm good.
You're in prison, boy, don't talk. Shut up and do what I say, don't talk. Don't want the social plea, cause the poor go to prison while the rich walk free. Yeah, the poor go to prison while the rich walk free. I said the poor go to prison while the rich walk free. Don't talk.
Oh, cry for modern man, lost without a chance. Go find eternity. Don't tell what you see.
I think the unifying theme behind it is that everyone's having fun. It's really kind of a party. It's very loose. We don't rehearse too much. It's not slick. It's the opposite of slick.
There's so many musicians making music here in the Motor City. And for them to be able to go on stage with Don Was, who is, I don't know that there's enough adjectives to describe how wonderful he is. And for them to sort of be plugged into that world and see what that feels like. And then all of these artists bring their own personality to these songs.
بدي قلك شي وما بعرف شو رح أقول صار الماضي عادي عندي كل شي يخلص مهما يطول طوينا الصفحة يا حياتي وقلبنا ورق
You know, you can take the boy out of Detroit. You can't take the Detroit out of the boy. I still drive a Dodge Charger Hellcat, and I'll always be a Detroiter. And to be able to go back and perform with all the brothers and sisters in Detroit, and to work with my dear friend Don Was and his beautiful creative vision, it's my great honor.
Right now it's time to kick out the jams, motherfucker! Are you ready, band? Are you ready, people? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel pretty good. Guess I couldn't get crazy now, man. Dog got in tune. The dressing room got hazy.
10 years later, the Concert of Colors continues to change in a number of ways. We are mostly a volunteer effort and a working collective of friends.
We have a new advisory board led by Ken Fisher, the former director of the University Music Society, along with the who's who of the arts community and business leaders.
We know we can have impact going forward. And that's really what the Concert of Colors is about, is having impact by bringing people together. Because we know that that's what this city needs to continue to do, is bring people together. And what better way to do that than around the culture that makes each of them unique. But by bringing them together, we're just gonna explode the knowledge, understanding, and appreciation that we have about each other.
Hi, planetary citizens.
Currently, the Concert of Colors is curated by Ismael, and the Detroit All-Star Review is curated by Don Was and WDET's Andelisi. Also, we are now located in Culture Source, along with the Detroit Metro Region's Art Coalition of 170 arts organizations.
Concert of Colors has brought in a real circle of administration and programming decision-making, and they listen and they engage with the ideas and the people. And I think that has been the staying power of the Concert of Colors, is that it has looked for ways to build that community, knowing that those strong roots are what keep it going.
All the things that are so great in your backyard, you kind of forget how great they are. They can be gone and you're like, oh, what happened to that wonderful thing we used to do, you know? Everything needs to be nurtured and loved on and promoted and embraced.
The Concert of Colors has once more reinvented itself. Based on Ishmael's old saying, if you don't have money, you have friends. The Concert of Colors has transformed into a week-long diversity festival with 5 stages in and outside the Detroit Institute of Arts with the support of Larry Baranski and his team and DIA CEO Salvador Pons.
Hello, I am Salvador Solar Pons, Director of the Detroit Institute of Arts. We're proud to once again host a number of performances for this year's Concert of Colors, and are glad to have you join us for this celebration of music from around the world.
de la calle y del mundo entero. ¡Ay! ¡Ay! ¡Ay!
¿Quién es el mero mero? ¿Quién es el más chingón?
The work is ongoing, and now more than ever, there's a need for people to really come to understand our similarities and not be focused on our differences.
We're living in some pretty crazy times right now, and I think the division is creating a lot of emotional upset. I see it in the faces of people, I see it in my friends, I see it in myself. It's tense. It's not the way we're meant to live. So events like this are really critical.
Concert of Colors can be an agent of change. The gathering of people from different parts of the community can be sort of the first step to having that conversation about understanding cultures, understanding racism, understanding what makes different communities and sub-communities tick. Concert of Colors really has its place in that struggle for understanding among communities.
We want to play a song for you now called AK-47. I had this dream about this, like, maybe naive idea about what would happen if we could load love into a gun.
5, 5, 5 for everyone. 5 for the fighters on the front line. 5 for the men killing.
What we need to be is agents of understanding. If we can just figure out ways to work together on what we're already doing, we don't have to change so much, we just have to literally build more, get young people to understand and embrace that idea of that difference, where we're seeing each other, make sure that they're seeing each other too, make sure we're still doing that melding and that still sort of sharing with each other and understanding each other's music, each other's backgrounds. If we can keep doing that so that the people who are doing it and the people who are performing are younger and younger each year, it'll last forever.
But we've got to keep it going because it opens up a door and a window to the city.
Detroit is complicated and wonderful and exciting and honest.
And the thing that's really, really wonderful about the concert is that while it started out in New Detroit and Ish has been, the person really in the forefront of it all the time, what happened is other venues and other organizations started raising their hands saying, really, can I be a part of it? And that's exactly the purpose of the organization, where folks said, I see a place that I can enter and I can showcase what I do, let's say the DIA, but then I can also be a part of something that's bigger than me. And that's what the Concert of Colors has done to our community.
It's a regional phenomena as much as it is a global phenomena in terms of the sounds. It's really critical to the cultural life and the cultural heritage of Detroit and southeastern Michigan.
I think this is a strange time to talk about whether things are changing for the good or the bad. The national politic, at least right now, is pretty ugly, and there's a lot of division. But I have a lot of hope. I see a lot of young people in particular, but communities as well, standing up for themselves. We want people to have a chance to enjoy this gorgeous culture that all of the different peoples have.
Keep playing it. Let me hear some noise. Keep it going.